Welcome to Airplay Escape. Please consider subscribing to my Patreon account for the full audiobook. Thank you for your support. Hogwarts, Joestar's Wild Journey to Become the Wizarding World's Strongest. Episode 1. When God closes a window, he will surely open a door for you. Joshua used to think so. Until that day. God, you are deflated and calculating me. Why open the door of someone else's house for me? London, the capital of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, is the largest city in Europe. It's September 1st, 1991, the day of middle school students, but 11-year-old Joshua doesn't want to go to school, doesn't even pack his luggage, and walks the streets so brazenly, aimlessly, and with his hands in his pockets. As soon as he opened his eyes this morning, a voice appeared in his head, jingling like the lamp in front of Ultraman's chest in the third point, and he had a nervous breakdown. At first, I thought it was auditory hallucinations or tinnitus in the morning, but when I was fully awake, the sound became louder and harsher. Joshua ran to several hospitals one after another, but he was stunned that he did not find any problems. In the end, there was a child. If you want to miss class, you can't be so nonsense, and was kicked out of the hospital door by the doctor. And when he walked to a residential area that he had never been to before, the voice in his head became louder and louder. Ah. I've had enough of you, okay? Whoever it is. Hurry up and come out and take charge of this sound. It violated my brainwaves. Joshua roared angrily, causing people in the streets to think he was a nervous little boy and hurry away from him. But this roar worked wonders, and the funeral-like bell was gone. Huh? Is it really useful? My king roars? Joshua touched his brain shell in amazement, and this strange behavior made the civilians in the residential areas on both sides of the street believe that there was something wrong with this kid. But the next second the disappearing ding sound struck again, and the momentum was even greater than it had just been. Congratulations to the host. Congratulations, host. You have successfully touched the real side of the world. Right now. A new world of ships is slowly unfolding towards you. Joshua was stunned and became a little overwhelmed. He did hear a cold voice echoing in his mind just now, and an immature idea took root. That system? Joshua looked left and right, saw that no one was paying attention to him, and walked forward with his head down. No one responded. It's also How can there be such a thing as a system? Joshua scratched his head awkwardly, but when he subconsciously glanced at the upper left corner of his perspective, a golden exclamation point. There's a golden exclamation point there. Joshua swallowed unconsciously, stretched out his hand, but passed through the golden exclamation point, looking like a special game of a potato factory. However, Joshua didn't care about this, continued to try, and silently said to the thing in his heart, "System?" The exclamation point suddenly became a golden light and appeared in the center of Joshua's perspective, turning into the so-called game interface? This is really. Joshua didn't know what to say. Hey. Does it turn out that there is such a good thing as a system in me? It's even more exciting than the news that I'm a traverser. When you open the interface, you will see a big head, although it looks silly, it is indeed Joshua himself. Joshua Joestar, 11, male, female, crosser. Nationality, Chinese nationality, his ancestors were sent international students in the late Qing dynasty, and finally settled in Ying country for various reasons, and have settled down to this day. Identity, Muggle, if there are no accidents, I will probably be so salted fish in this life, right? Note, this system is a traverser service system, committed to creating the strongest traverser in the plane, and now it is the first trial operation, if there is a system error. Please also ask the host to ignore it. Oh my God. What is this? Joshua was speechless. How can I vaguely remember what systematic texts I read in my previous life? Even if there is no newbie gift package, at least I will give the protagonist a template. You don't hurt me a lot with this fart. However, this bullshit system really only provided Joshua with so little. Oh, by the way, on the side of Joshua's avatar in the middle of the system interface, there is a small different place, rectangular, and you can faintly see that there are words on it. Joshua patiently clicked it away. System mission, find the hidden truth of this world. Juvenile. You. It's the star of tomorrow. Let's go. Become a myth. Reward, a great opportunity that everyone in your past life longed for, but missed and regretted. P.S. Depending on the degree of mission completion, there may be hidden rewards. It looks like a weird too. Confused by this, Joshua could only walk left and right down the street, hoping to think of a little information about the mission. This task prompt is ambiguous. It doesn't look like a good system. But it appeared on me as a traverser. It's really addictive. Joshua thought about it, but still couldn't think of anything comparable to the hidden truth of the world, could it? The Americans caught the alien visitor? Listen. Brat. The houses on the side of the street seemed to be noisy, and Joshua subconsciously looked inside. What kind of mess have you made in the station? You don't want to go to that broken school. I'll send you straight to St. Bruce Security Center, juvenile school for offenders. It looks like a father and son who are in a bad relationship arguing about something. Compared to the stout tall man who was like a wrestler, the young man who was yelled at was weak as if the wind would blow away. Joshua shook his head with a sigh. Compared to himself, he is still very lucky, but he is also a semi-protagonist template with no sister and a house, and his parents are busy. The man huffed and got into the main driver's seat, and the little boy who looked as if Joshua was the same age could only smile bitterly and turn to get into the car. Perhaps by providence, Joshua and the little boy's gaze inadvertently collided. The boy smiled coyly, bitter but with a little hope for the future. Joshua Mean smiled back and watched the car leave. Daniel Radcliffe. Actors. Playing the protagonist of the movie Harry Potter. Harry Porter? Harry Potter? Episode 2. God is a girl, can you believe it? Can you accept it? Daniel Radcliffe. Actors. Joshua looked at the sky, pondered for a long time, walked to the family's yard, and looked at the name written on the mailbox, Vernon Desley. When I walked to the intersection again, I saw the name of the road indicated on it, Privet Road. And then Joshua slapped himself. Syllable. It really hurts. Sure enough, it wasn't a dream. I didn't feel the faint pain in that hand, and when I looked at it, I slapped my face on my back, and I couldn't bend it anymore. Joshua said with chagrin in his heart, sure enough, the once you star in the sky can't be beaten. And now God is calculating, but I can't imagine that the truth of the hidden world means this. Joshua narrowed his glasses, and the sun in the distant sky shone on his body, just like the new world of ships described in the mission. Joshua clicked on the system again and meditated in his heart, I see, the truth of the so-called world. It's wizards. This is not the mortal world I once lived in. There are wizards here. There's Harry Potter. There is the Dursley family. There must be Dumbledore and Hogwarts too. The system does not have any representation, but there is an extra line of words on the task column, 50% of the completion progress, guess is imaginary, experience is true, and please continue to explore. So Joshua decided. It's time to embark on an incredible adventure. He stretched out his fist and clenched the sun and moon spinning on the street, success or failure. It depends on the present day. Became a tender model of the clubhouse, lost the wind on the rooftop. I Joshua Joestar have a dream. This life is not for the sake of salted fish, but for the sake of becoming the strongest to cross the rebirth. Passing taxi masters pass by Joshua like gods, and there are few young men who dare to be so inspirational on the street. Master. Don't go. Give me a ride, get out. Lao Tzu does not accept fools. System. Is there a rocket launcher? Lao Tzu wants to bombard him to death. He called me a fool. My mom never did that to me. System tip, host. You were just quite stupid. Let's leave this innocent driver alone. Joshua wasted a lot of effort to catch up with the taxi, and it took a lot of tongue to convince the driver that he was not mentally disabled and let him send him home. Fortunately, his home is not far from here, and it takes an hour to drive away. Leaving the driver to wait outside, Joshua rushed into his house, and the first thing he did was look up at the time. Phew. It's just after 9 o'clock. Joshua subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. What a fart. I don't know how long it will take to get to King's Cross from here. Hurry up and pack up your things and run away. Locking the doors and windows of the house, lifting out the small vault hidden under the bed, slamming it on the ground, and the porcelain piggy money jar ended his young life. However, the departure of the piggy money jar also gave Joshua what he wanted, a large amount of paper money. Because of Joshua's parents' work, they often flew around abroad. The so-called death of both parents, the car and the house, refer to Joshua himself. Psychological warmth parents can't give, so they have to make up a little more physically. At least Joshua has never lacked pocket money since he was a child, especially after he showed more intelligence than his peers, and every year his parents called more and more money every year, even if it is completely okay to let Joshua go out and start a business now. But due to the influence of his previous life, Joshua is very salty fish. Since he has no worries about food and clothing, why do he have to work hard to go out and start a business? Anyway, as an otaku, I don't have any bad habits like figures, and I don't have friends and girls to play, and the cost is basically only food and clothing. The so-called angle coefficient is quite high. So, he saved a lot of money. Now the money is of great use. Although people in the wizarding world do not charge pounds. But at least Gringotts still charges pounds, doesn't it? It's better to bring money than not to have it. A hasty grab of a large sum of money, about a few £100, is enough. Stuffing the rest of the money into my pillow, I randomly packed a few changes of clothes into my suitcase. After making sure everything was in place, Joshua ran into the taxi again. What's wrong, lad? In such a hurry. The driver's uncle was still smoking, leaning against the window and spitting smoke rings. Master, don't smoke. Hurry up and take me to King's Cross Station. I'm in a hurry. Add money too. It's better to arrive before 11. As soon as he heard that Master Qian came hard, he took a sharp breath to finish the last remaining point of the cigarette butt, and spit out a large smoke ring. Good Lou. 11 o'clock, huh? Let's go. As soon as the accelerator went down, the taxi suddenly ran away. After passing through 32 intersections and more than 10 streets, the driver master rushed left and right in the traffic, stunned that not a single car was touched. If it were not for the red light to stop for a while, maybe he could have arrived at the King's Station earlier. Joshua paid and asked for the time, and it was now 10:50. Phew. Fortunately, it was time. Joshua subconsciously wiped a handful of cold sweat from his head, straightened his clothes, and walked into the flow of people coming and going in the station. Episode 3. Excuse me. Platform 9. Oh no. Where's Platform 10? Joshua stopped a tall station guard. Platform 10? The guard glanced at Joshua, the little boy with black hair, which reminded him of the little boy with glasses he had met not long ago. That's really funny, I don't even know the number of platforms to come to the train station, and what else to ask. Platform 9 3/4? Do you really think that you are such a good pastime as a fool? What are you doing over there? Out of caution, the guard asked more, in case the person in front of him was like a fool, stupid, he had to go to some bullshit platform, then the situation would not be good. Joshua was strange, but answered honestly, "Oh, sir, look at the question you asked, of course, to take the train to school." The guard scratched his head, it should be his own delusion. How can there be a fool looking for a platform of 9 3/4? Okay boy, platform 10 is right in front of you, as long as you walk a few hundred more steps to see it. Oh. Thank you. Joshua did not forget to bow and express his gratitude, and his polite appearance made the guard very happy. After bidding farewell to the guards, Joshua ran quickly, or maybe he flew too low. Along the way, the sparks carried lightning, and when they hit people, they just apologized and continued to run forward. It was hard to find the pillar of the legendary view of Platform 10 and Platform 9, the so-called Platform 9 3/4. In order not to attract the attention of others, Joshua stopped, slowly approached the pillar, and then pretended to run too much and needed to catch his breath, but actually clicked on the system that no shit had. Sure enough. The taskbar next to the avatar is flickering wildly, indicating that this thick and strong pillar is not ordinary. Anyway, it's already close to the pillar, and all that remains to do is to crash into the pillar headfirst, and then you can enter the wizarding world and lose. Big deal to go home as a salted fish. Seeing that no one paid attention to his side, Joshua gritted his teeth, slammed his head back, and then Duong knocked out a bag in one fell swoop. Oh. Kill me. Joshua covered his mouth so that he couldn't shout out, but he didn't know that his behavior was actually similar to hysteria in the eyes of passers-by, covering his mouth and twisting his body frantically, looking like a salted fish unwillingly flipping its body on a pan. System. System. Talk about 9 3/4 of the platform. How can it not be worn through? After finally relieving the pain of the one in his head, Joshua quickly looked at his taskbar, hoping that this bullshit thing could give himself an explanation. The system interface lived up to expectations and gave Joshua a response, and a large line of words appeared on the taskbar. System prompt, Mr. Host, won't you try another direction? Joshua was silent, almost self-absorbed. The solution given by this system makes you look like a fool. This time it was much more convenient with the system prompt, and Joshua quietly touched the other side of the platform, his head swept around, but his hands were behind his back. Soon Joshua found the right side, turned around and closed his eyes, bowed his head and arched in. Snap. Just as a patient suffering from excessive gas in his stomach and intestines let go of local laxity, Joshua successfully crossed the invisible line and came, New World. Phew. Good. I'm hit. The prompt sound of the mission system sounded frantically. Unlike the tirelessness of the morning, Joshua was full of excitement at the moment, and the joy of success. Crossing this line indicates that his life will open a new episode, his future will be engraved in the history of wizards, maybe thousands of years later, people will call themselves the strongest ever? Dirt dude, ho, when it is successful, even the sound of the train starting sounds so wonderful. Joshua opened his arms and embraced this wizarding sky. Imagine your future amid the roar of trains and the system's frantic prompts. In Joshua's imagination, he successfully entered Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and was assigned to Hufflepuff House by the Sorting Hat, where he struggled and studied with his classmates, was successful in his studies, helpful, united with his classmates, loved labor, obeyed the law, was loyal to his duties, loved his motherland, loved the people, and loved the Celestial Empire. All in all, the good student Joshua had a smooth journey, punching Voldemort, stepping on the Death Eaters, and finally becoming the Minister of Magic and marrying Fumi by to the peak of his life. Ahem. After all, there is everything in the dream. It's also understandable that salted fish daydream. Huh? Mom, why is this little brother hugging the sky here? Doesn't he have to go to school? Obviously the trains have already left. And also, his posture is amazing. Joshua subconsciously opened his eyes, and a little loli with short red hair was standing in front of him, talking to his mother, but that was not the point. The focus is on the train that is slowly leaving the platform. Sleeping? Master. Hold on. I haven't gotten in the car yet. Episode 4. Joshua didn't know why he remembered a movie he had seen in his previous life. A lewd uncle with two beards sped towards the train in front of him, his hands spread, and let out a helpless cry. I haven't gotten on the train yet. I haven't gotten in the car yet. How presumptuous. Joshua laughed when he watched the movie, and how sad his heart is now. No wonder the mission system was so clanging at that time. It turns out that I didn't do the most important point at all. The people on the platform left in twos and threes, not looking at Joshua. This impersonal world made Joshua feel even more desperate. Even when he was first reborn, he had never been as powerless as he is now. Of course, his initial fear was all like a baby crying spontaneously. You know, Joshua who has just crossed as a baby's posture. Life can't take care of itself. Every day he has to endure the danger of bedwetting and fight wits and courage with parents who want to amuse him. No mobile phone computer, no light novel, no friends to play with friends, no sand sculptures. Netizens can't even generate electricity from their homes. Joshua can survive such a boring life. But now he has no way at all. If he can't get on the train, he can't enter Hogwarts, which is the only way for him to enter that magical sanctuary. I can't come back next year for a ride and sneak into the school and tell Dumbledore, big guy. Can I repeat a grade for 1 year and a grade? The more Joshua thought about it, the more angry he became, Even the task system is too lazy to look. Life is hopeless. He couldn't learn magic, so how could he live in this fantasy world where an Avada could fly over at any time? He braced his hands on the ground, not wanting others to see how embarrassed he was now, but what could this be? The tears of indisputability still fell, wetting the ground and wetting his red coat. Huh? Little brother, why are you sitting here? Isn't it cold on the ground? A pair of shiny little black leather shoes appeared in front of Joshua's eyes. Joshua shook his head. He didn't want to talk now, he just wanted to be quiet. Mom. The little brother looks very troubled. Shall we help him? The owner of the little leather shoes should be a little lowly, but this still does not make Joshua happy. It's been 11 years since she lived in the country of Ing. What kind of Lolita girl Joshua hasn't seen? The girl's mother came over at the sound of her steps on the ground, sounding like a slightly fat lady. Oh. Child. What's wrong with you? Separated from your family? Get up. It's dirty on the ground. The lady reached over and pulled Joshua up without saying a word. To be honest, this lady's hands were quite strong, and Joshua had already stood up straight before she could react, and she cleaned the dust on her body with her hands. Child, get up. Don't be sad if something happens, you say it, perhaps. How can we help you? Joshua looked up, and the first thing he noticed were two bright red hairs, then a short-haired loli and her slightly chubby mother. Joshua was a little embarrassed. I didn't make it to the train. The red-haired lady was stunned for a long time, then shook her head. Child, really? She seemed to be thinking about her wording. I've sent 5 kids to school too. Today this is the 6th, not to mention when I went to school. I don't know how many years have passed, but it's the first time I've seen someone who didn't get in the car because they missed the time. Madam, don't say it. I want to cry. Really, Joshua was poked in the heart. It was really sad against the river. He may be the stupidest crosser in history, right? This is quite. Tang X did not join Shrek Academy because of diarrhea. Lin X did not go to the Dao sect because of egg pain. This TM is also too ridiculous. Little Lori pouted, seemingly disapproving of Joshua's appearance. It's a shame. Today in order to send my brothers to school, I got up at 8 o'clock. Shut up, Ginny. Madam scolded her daughter. You won't have any pudding tonight. Little Lori had to cover her mouth. Well boy. Or you come with us first. Go to the leaky cauldron. I'll ask my husband if there's a way to get you to Hogwarts. The red-haired lady looked at Joshua and nodded before continuing. Okay, let's go now. By the way, you can call me Mrs. Weasley, and her name is Ginny. Little brother, you should only be a year older than me, right? What's your name? Ginny took her mother's stubble and asked Joshua. Joshua. Joshua Joestar. Joshua suddenly saw a glimmer of possibility. Weasley? Is it that pure-blood family that is famous in the wizarding world? The family of Haliki friend Ron in the protagonist trio? They seem to be very friendly to muggles. Huh? Joshua Joestar? It was Joshua. Is Joestar spelled that way? Ginny was intrigued. What a strange name. Your family must have called you Jojo, right? I don't think I can afford such a tall name now. Just call me Joshua. Joshua wiped a handful of beads of sweat from his forehead, although he was often a little dark about the name. But he didn't. There is the wonderful body of the previous generations of Jojo, the second is not the wonderful ability of the previous generations of Jojo, and the third is not the most important wonderful posture. To put it in perspective, with the name Jojo, how can there be no fantastic pose? Although he is proud of the surname Joestar, after all, this is the supreme glory composed by Jojo with his life and youth in the past. But now, it's just an ordinary, traversal, systematic, somewhat handsome muggle boy. Episode 5. Joshua followed Mrs. Weasley out of platform 9 3/4. If there were still people watching him when he first arrived here, then now it is completely gone. This is the ability of wizards, a confusion can erase their existence. I thought about how do we get to Diagon Alley? Or shall we use flow powder to go over? Soon, Mrs. Weasley was a little embarrassed, now that she was surrounded by 2 underage wizards, and even Ginny didn't have a wand, it seemed difficult to move them over with her retinue manifestation. Joshua doesn't have it now, but Mrs. Weasley subconsciously thinks that the people who can get to platform 9 3/4 are just little wizards. Or shall we take the subway? But I need you to tell me the exact location of Diagon Alley. I am afraid that muggle maps are not the same as wizards. Joshua made a small suggestion. He didn't want to try any flow powder. Harry Potter used that thing for the first time and made a mistake, sending himself to overturned alley. Pinning your life on the aura of an ethereal protagonist is undoubtedly the dumbest thing to do, not to mention the 2 glaring words in the system, muggles. Joshua had also lived in London for so many years, and he really didn't find anything unusual except knowing that he was a traverser. It stands to reason that Hogwarts would not refuse a qualified muggle child to come to school. But I only learned about the wizarding world by getting such a bullshit system this morning. It's terrifying to think about. Could it be that he is not a little wizard? Joshua, who was sitting on the subway, was very interested in the scenery in the subway, pulling Mrs. Weasley to ask questions, but Mrs. Weasley was also from a pure-blood wizarding family and knew very little about muggle things. Seeing that little Ginny didn't mean to disturb herself, Joshua quietly breathed a sigh of relief and calmed down to turn on the system. System. You've hurt me. Why did you tell me about this morning? Now I haven't even mixed up with the Hogwarts train, let alone still a muggle. What the hell is this? A dialog box appears on the system interface, and a line of words emerges like chatting with buttons. If it weren't for the host being too obsessed with his fantasies, it was calculated that he could have rushed to the train in the last few seconds. Rub, that means my pot? If the host has to think so, that's fine. Joshua wanted to threaten the shit system with a fierce expression, but found that it didn't seem to have eyes to detect his expression, and became even more frustrated. Did I fail in this mission? How can this be done? I'm not a wizard. Will it erase the memory? I knew I wouldn't come with Mrs. Weasley. Bite. The system gives him a tone. The host has met the conditions for the completion of the mission and successfully entered the corner of the magical side forces, although he did not successfully board the Hogwarts Express, but it was judged. The completion of this mission is 90%. If you pass the grade, you can receive the task reward and gift package given by the system. Really? Joshua almost jumped up, but thinking that there were still people around him, he sat down honestly. I think quest rewards are abundant, right? What the? A great opportunity that everyone longed for in a previous life, but missed and regretted? Hurry up and say ah. Is it an opportunity to get stronger? I'm going to. Mission reward. In the not-so-distant future, there are several outstanding characters. They stir up the world, make the world look at it, and they are all leading the tide in their respective fields. Oh, sounds cool, but the win starts at the end of Chimping, and even the best boss has the time to be salted fish, this opportunity. Just to remind the host of you. Let you follow in their footsteps. Join this wave of change. Sounds like meat is coming. Their names are Bill Gates, Jobs, Bin Laden, Ma Huadang. Joshua blinked his eyes. What? What do you say? I didn't hear clearly. And it seems that there is a strange character mixed in. However, the system ignored Joshua's doubts and continued to write generously on the chat box. The above people, as long as you get the favor of one of them, you can get boundless money and even glory. The big husband should be like that, shouldn't it? Host, big husband, your sister. Supreme glory to your sister. What Lao Tzu wants to do now is the business of a wizard. Not to mention the Mr. Layden inside. I'm afraid I won't know how to die after hooking up with him. I don't want to be suddenly killed by the American guys who broke into my house one day, but at least this reminds the host of something from a past life, doesn't it? At least not in 9/11 to run to the Empire State Building to blind the waves. The host died. This system is a headache. Uncle, do you have a head? In the end, my muggle problem is still unsolved. Please rest assured. Host, you don't have enough to complete your tasks, but there are still big packages. If you don't believe me, please look at your identity again. Joshua was full of doubts and clicked on his status bar. Joshua Joestar, known as Little Jojo, unfortunately not a muscle man. Nationality, Chinese nationality. Identity, trainee little wizard, shocked. The unexpected happened. The sow is on the tree. The rat is a bridesmaid for the old cat. Muggles can be wizards. Learned spells, none. Big brother and his father will diamond star boxing. You play a younger brother. Battle 5 scum. Money, a handful of pounds. Note, a new storm is coming, but the host is still eating noodles. Episode 6. Little Ginny was shocked, Mrs. Weasley was shocked, Joshua was shocked, and the people of the world were shocked. For pure-blood wizards, everything in the modern society that Muggles have developed is so incredible. Modern technology is to them what magic is to us ordinary people. Joshua's shock was because of the reward given by the system. Obviously, when he first opened the system in the morning, his identity was just a little muggle, and now he has become a tall trainee little wizard. Joshua hurriedly asked the system, but was told that, won't the melon skin host check the historical news? He had to pretend to be wandering in the world, and quickly clicked on the system interface, but saw that it was written. System prompt, the one who travels 100 miles is half 90, although the host has promoted the task completion to 90%, but still fell on the most important step, and the original newbie gift package reward was cut in half and distributed. Only wizard qualifications are obtained, and after obtaining an exclusive wand, a magic learning can be randomly drawn. Joshua thought for a while and clicked on the system package. Inside, there is only one line of words, a set of essential teaching tools for little wizards, and a platinum star with substitute ability. White. White. Platinum star? Joshua people are almost stupid, they seem to have missed a huge opportunity. That's the legendary Oiler. Although I am a master. But I also have a melee heart. What platinum star? What kind of shiny trinkets? Ginny was a little surprised by the little dark-haired brother's self-talk, so she asked Joshua. Nothing. Nothing. What can Joshua answer? Can you tell Ginny that that's Oiler? No, Joshua could only casually hold a pillar and bang his head against it to express his remorse. The group of 3 left the subway station, and Mrs. Weasley's face was red, looking as if she was more than 10 years younger. I really didn't know Muggles had done this. I started thinking it was something like a car. Be sure to sit on this again with Arthur next time. Joshua is embarrassed to have cancer, and these 2 masters are just like Grandma Lou entering the Grandview Garden, and they will be amazed at everything they see. It is not so much that they enter the city as dirt buns, but rather that primitive people observe the future city. If it weren't for the confusion curse still working, it is estimated that they would have been talked about by now. Fortunately, the exit of the subway station is not far from the leaky cauldron, otherwise Joshua will be grabbing the land with his head. Joshua was surprised to find that the leaky cauldron was actually on a fairly prosperous street, and he had passed by here before, but he didn't find anything wrong. Now it seems that there is a small dilapidated bar there. Pushing open the door of the bar, with a wave of alcohol rushed towards Joshua, who had never drunk in his previous life, almost didn't vomit, frowned and fanned in front of his nose. Oh, no. This is terrible. No children, just get used to it. Mrs. Weasley behind him smiled and walked into the bar first, and Ginny, who was following her ass, also took steps, deliberately holding her head high as she walked past Joshua, proudly like a little peacock with no hair in its hair. Joshua didn't understand very well, scratched the back of his head and followed. At this time, it was almost time for dinner, and there were many people in the bar, and it seemed that the bar owners had changed into waiter clothes and were busy at various tables. Some of the drinkers were making loud noises, patting their naked chests to show the scars on them, like barbarians more than wizards. There are also many people in the gloomy corners of the bar, where a glass of light beer and a piece of white bread seemed to make him spend the morning. Oh, Mrs. Molly. Really, how did you get here? Please sit down, please sit down. The bar owner was a half-bald old man, and Joshua flipped through his remaining memories. He was supposed to be Tom, the owner of the leaky cauldron. Mrs. Weasley looked embarrassed. Well, old Tom, may I borrow your awl here? I have something to contact Arthur. Old Tom was stunned for a moment. It's natural, I'll go get you a pen and paper. Joshua's eyes suddenly brightened, and he quickly said to Mrs. Weasley, I want to go buy something in the back. Can you wait here with Ginny for a while? I'll go back as soon as I go. Joshua followed old Tom and disappeared into the crowd, and Ginny couldn't help but pout. Oh, Mom, he's not going to run away, is he? Mrs. Weasley gave Ginny a blank look, but said nothing, pulled Ginny to an empty table and sat down. Speaking of Joshua on the other side, he wasted the boss's strength to catch up with the old Tom in front. Stop, sir. Old Tom turned his head suspiciously. Are you that little wizard who came with Lady Molly? What's the matter, eh? Joshua thought for a moment and pulled out a note from his pocket. So what? Can you? Oh my God. Child. We are a serious service industry. Don't do black business. This boss's reaction is really unflattering. Ha ha ha. You said and laughed. My Joestar family has been gentlemen for generations. How can I do bad things? Joshua tried his best to keep the smile on his face. I just want you to give them both a drink, and if anyone comes in a while, I'll serve them a drink. I will pay for the problem of money. After all, Mrs. Weasley helped me a lot. Merely. I don't have enough galleons right now, and I have to go to Gringotts in the back to exchange them first, so I can only use Muggle currency as a deposit. I don't know if you charge it or not. Collect. Why not? I collect any currency here, after all, I'm also a half-race. Old Tom said surprisingly, but it's just. Just what? You look like it's time for dinner. Old Tom lengthened his voice, and the meaning was self-evident. Joshua secretly scolded a black-hearted businessman who would do business. I'll then trouble you to prepare our lunch. Let's prepare a serving of 5 first, that. Old Tom squinted his eyes and didn't speak. What's wrong again? You didn't pay enough. Episode 7. Joshua hated itching his teeth, but he couldn't say it clearly, so he had to press the irritability in his heart and said with a pleasant face, that. How much more do you want? Lunch for 5, plus corresponding drinks. Not much, 1 galleon 611 is enough. Converted into Muggle currency. Forget it, I'll give you the change. So angry that Joshua really wanted to slap the money on his smiling old face. After replenishing the money, Tom Sr. graciously led Joshua to the small patio behind the bar, opening the way to Diagon Alley for him. Joshua didn't have much of a smile on his face, to be honest. This patio gave him a little bad association. The small toilets made of stone slabs next to the country restaurant are basically like this. Not to mention the dirty mess, there is still a faint smell of fishiness. Maybe old Tom is too lazy to pour the swill in the store or something, so he pours it directly here. Gagging. After stepping out of the small patio, Joshua felt a little better after breathing in the fresh air. Diagon Alley, as the most prosperous commercial street in the wizarding world of country, is undoubtedly unqualified. It's really too narrow and too short. Although the streets are lined with prestigious year-old shops, this does not hide the place. The fact that there is not enough space and the value of the land is increasing day by day. Basically, as long as there is no one on the street, you can see Gringotts at the end of the street from the Leaky Cauldron bar on the street. However, the constant sound of soliciting customers in the shops on both sides of the street still makes people want to shop, especially now that Joshua has a lot of money in his pocket. System, turn on the Sky Eye Scan mode for me. I want to set off a bloody shopping sweep in Diagon Alley. Leak King. I'm done, sorry, host, this system does not have the above features. Seeking help from the system was fruitless, so Joshua could only put aside his delusions and honestly move forward with the flow of people. There were many people in Diagon Alley, but they were all adult wizards, and they all looked at him in amazement when they saw Joshua's little boy walking around here. The older children go to school, and the younger ones have their parents to follow. This will seem very abrupt. There are also a few wizards who are not good people at first glance, wrapping themselves up like mummies, and daring to emerge from dark corners in broad daylight, intending to hook up with Joshua with words and lead him somewhere. But Joshua ignored the guys and just walked on his own. Unlike the strange little shops on the street, Joshua saw the whole picture of Gringotts and had a thought in his heart, sleeping. This Bank Ginema has an upstart temperament. It is the tallest white building in the entire Diagon Alley, not to mention the 2 muscular goblin guards at the door, but why are their clothes gilded? And the gate? Bronze. Are gates made of bronze burglar-proof? Not strong, the usefulness of this thing is simply to show off wealth. God is pitiful, Joshua has lived 2 lifetimes, and the most arrogant clothes he wears are only the shameless open-crotch pants that exposed the little Finches in his previous life, and the most arrogant door he has used is only the steel door installed in the house in this life. Gritting his teeth and looking at the doorman was nothing, Joshua could only continue to walk forward. However, within a few steps, there was another silver gate. This door was even more presumptuous than just now, and a few lines of large characters were engraved on it. Please come in, stranger, but beware of what the insatiable greed can do. Blindly taking unearned gain will be punished most severely. Therefore, if you want to take it from our underground vault, a piece of wealth that has never belonged to you, O thief, you have been warned. Beware of not treasure, but evil rewards. English Slag feels this translation is weird. Joshua was full of resentment and calculated in his heart how much the gate could sell for, and by the way, he found a counter with fewer people to line up behind. Next. Gringotts employees are basically goblins, with big heads, thin bodies, long hands and feet, and short bodies are their distinctive physical characteristics, and the voice of the goblin in front of Joshua sounds a bit like a male duck. The attitude towards this kind of creature Joshua is awe-inspiring, even a little annoying, perhaps because they have broken the perfect image that the various fairy ladies and sisters in the Japanese manga have left in Joshua's heart. Sir, I want to exchange a little currency for gold galleons with Muggle currency. Oh? Of course. The goblin craned his neck to see Joshua. Although it is very low, its work counter is very high, and this feeling of being looked down on from a high level makes Joshua even more unhappy. Joshua pulled out his notes, and the denominations filled the table. Although this money is a lot, it inevitably reminds Joshua of the feeling of little children using all their savings to buy a snack to eat. I want to exchange 1,000 pounds, I should be able to exchange it for 200 galleons, right? And then can you exchange 30 of them for silver seco and copper nat? I need to shop in a moment. It is one of our jobs to provide high-quality service to our customers, sir. When the performance was in hand, the goblin was naturally very happy, gladly accepted Joshua's banknotes, put them into the cabinet under the table without looking at them, and grabbed a large handful of gold and silver coins after a few casual pulls. This is the currency you exchanged. The bag is an extra gift from us. Please fill out this form after taking inventory of your property. Due to the urging of sand sculpture netizens. A few more episodes will be sent in a moment. Episode 8. This is the currency you exchanged, and the bag was given to you extra, with a stretching spell attached. Please fill out this form after taking an inventory of your property. Joshua took the money bag and form in the goblin's hand, during which the hands of the two inadvertently touched, and the dry rough palm like an old tree and pointed nails made Joshua a little uncomfortable, and quickly withdrew his hand. The money bag is not large, but because of the traceless stretching charm cast inside, it can hold a lot of things. Joshua quickly counted the coins, looked at the form, and there was nothing, just a registration of information to facilitate the service of people when they came back in the future. Joshua filled it out, handed the form to the goblin, and left Gringotts with his shrill farewell. Next, Joshua wondered, what should I do? Can the system give an opinion? According to the current situation of the host, you should first go to the Lady Morkin Robe Specialty Store to customize clothes, then go to Lycan Bookstore to buy books, then go to the Literati Habitat, Patchy Crucible Store to buy stationery and crucibles and other supplies, and finally go to Ollivander to buy a wand. By the way, after obtaining the wand, the host can randomly draw a spell. Joshua was already running when the system gave the first suggestion, but he still silently complained in his heart, grass. Why? Why should I run so many stores? When I go back, when people see that I have taken so many things, they will definitely think that I have a problem. It's not that Muggle hosts are too stupid to hug the sky. Do you think your wonderful pose is beautiful? Well, now that I was supposed to give you the school opening gift, I have to buy the books and crucibles yourself. Joshua didn't want to say anything. Wonderful posture is the foundation of the Jo family, and Jojo without wonderful posture is an incomplete Jojo. After about 7 or 8 minutes, Joshua ran through the above stores. Basically, they rushed into the store and dropped a few galleons as a deposit, reported what they needed to the clerk, said that they would come and get it later, and then Joshua hurried to the next store to pay. After running back and forth a few times, Joshua finally got a rough idea of his equipment. The magic book. Bought a large pile and stuffed a whole school bag, which made Joshua feel like he dreamed back to his past life. The content of the textbook is very complicated: standard spells, elementary, history of magic, theory of magic, a guide to transfiguration for beginners, 1,000 magical herbs and mushrooms, magic potions and potions, monsters and their origins, dark forces, a guide to self-defense. These textbooks alone cost him dozens of galleons. Although Hogwarts does not charge a fee, its incidental property alone can support a large number of people. At the bookstore, Joshua also bought an extra copy of The Story of Poetry and Beans, because he remembered that the book seemed to play a big role in the main plot. However, after a few glances at Joshua on the way, I found that this book is purely a children's book. Function: lead people to good? In addition, he bought 3 sets of black plain work robes at Mrs. Morkin's robe shop, a black plain pointed hat worn during the day, a pair of protective gloves in dragon skin, and a winter cloak with black silver buttons, but Mrs. Morgan's robe seemed to be unsold, and Joshua had to buy several more clothes in the bombardment of her language. If you don't think about height, Joshua thinks he can wear these clothes until the 5th grade. Popular science, huh? Well. Next, it is all popular science data for water word count, and the little wizard who is not interested can read the next episode. So the price set in Harry Potter really hurts. 3 denominations of currency, 1 galleon is equal to 17 seco, 1 galleon is equal to 29 nats, the value of 1 galleon is fixed at £5. In 1991 gold totaled almost 72 RMB a gram, and the exchange rate of pound sterling and RMB is about 1 minute and 9.2 seconds. 1 galleon is basically equal to about 46 yuan. God knows why the ratio of currency conversion is prime. And that's not all. The Weasley vault described in the book. A gold galleon. Counting Sheikah and Nat breaking the sky, it is only a few $100s. Can you believe that? Can you accept it? Poor students like me have a lot more money per month than the money in his family's small coffers. Arthur, the head of the family, is also a government officer, and a department-level cadre can be regarded as a personality. The eldest and second eldest in the family have been working for several years, one studying dragons in Romania, and the other working as a programming aide in the World Bank in the Wizarding World, young and promising, right? If you don't spend family money, you will definitely give your family a little subsidy, but that's it. It can be called the poorest family in the original book. And Harry's wand and the first Philosopher's Stone only cost 7 galleons, 350 yuan? Yes. That's right. 350 yuan. 350 yuan. For only 350 renminbi, you can turn into a horse monkey shochu. This is much more conscientious than the 9080 figures. Leaving this aside, Harry bought a bunch of snacks on the train when he went to school in the first part, and it was only $30 to cover the entire seat. It seems that the people of the Wizarding World live very richly, and the price is unimaginably low, but books are different. The only book price that has appeared is the advanced potion production in the 6th book, which costs about 450 yuan for a book, and a quill in the Literati Curie also costs dozens of yuan. But even if the book is full of high-level knowledge, no matter how thick it is. But this is too expensive. No wonder the Weasleys are so poor. All the money earned is paid for books. By the way, thanks to our country for exempting primary and secondary school students from tuition and fees. However, considering that Aunt Rowling may not have thought so much at the time, everyone still reluctantly accepted this setting. Episode 9. Host, are you ready? Well, I'm ready. As far as the system says, after he obtains the wand here, he can draw a random spell provided by the system, which is something he can't miss, and whether he can become stronger depends on this wand. Joshua stood in front of a small broken shop, and outside the store hung a not very big gold signboard. Above, Ollivander, a fine wand made since 382 BC. Joshua was puzzled by this, since it is the Wizarding World, why use the Muggle world's timekeeping method, or is our Savior Jesus simply a great magician? Joshua took a deep breath and pushed the door into the store. Dark, cramped, ceiling-to-ceiling bookshelves were filled with small boxes of wands. This was Joshua's first impression of this famous wand shop. Then his nose was filled with indescribable smells, which seemed like the smell of paint but a little more natural, or simply. Is it the taste of a magic wand? At this time, the store was empty, and Joshua couldn't help but have a bold idea, or steal a bunch of his wands and leave? Oh. Child. You're probably the boldest little wizard I've ever met. The voice from behind startled Joshua, and he hurriedly withdrew his hand that was tinkering on the bookshelf, but he moved too quickly and brought down a few boxes of wands. Sorry. Sir. Joshua blushed, and the small gesture of being caught in front of him was very hotsy-cassy. It's okay. I'm just curious why I saw a little wizard who was supposed to go to school at this point in time. The owner of the voice appeared in front of Joshua, a tall, thin old man with gray hair, most memorable for his silver-white eyes, plain like a pool of bathwater. Joshua's face immediately turned red, and Mr. Ollivander only shook his head and smiled when he saw it. He walked over to the counter inside the store and picked up a tape measure. Come on, no matter what time it is, but I know what you need right now is a wand. Kid, I'll measure you the size. Which one is your dominant hand? Right hand, sir. Joshua was given various strange poses by Mr. Ollivander, some to facilitate the measurement of hand length, others to facilitate the measurement of shoulder width, and he even took a tape measure and circled the top of Joshua's head, supposedly to measure the head circumference. However, measuring head circumference was not the most wonderful thing. The old man left Joshua's side, and the tape measure actually moved on its own and began to measure the distance between Joshua's two nostrils. I hope the last little wizard who measured the distance between his nostrils did not suffer from rhinitis, otherwise if there is something strange slimy on it. Vomit. Joshua didn't want to think about it any longer. Every Ollivander wand has a super magical substance, and that's what it's all about, sir. We used unicorn hair, phoenix tail feathers, and dragon nerves. Every Ollivander wand is unique because no two unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are exactly the same. Of course, if you use a wand that should belong to another wizard, you will never have such a good effect. Ollivander nagged for a long time, but Joshua always felt as if he had heard this passage somewhere. I've heard that it's the wand that chooses the wizard. Joshua began, but before he could continue, Ollivander interrupted. Yes, sir. But wands don't have life in the broad sense that we define, so one of my duties is to help wands choose a good owner for them. Mr. Ollivander pulled a small box from the shelf, Huangsun wood, unicorn hair, 11 inches long. This tree is called the wood of knowledge, purity, and truth. The wand was taken back before it could be hot. No. Looks like it's not for you. Joshua always felt that Ollivander was speaking to the wand and not to himself. That's right. Mr. Ollivander. You haven't told me how this wand matches the wizard. How can I know if this wand is right for me? The performance in the movie is much simpler. Harry Potter can make the wand box on the bookshelf fly with a wave of his wand, but how the hell is this done? It's simple. As long as you take the wand and inject your own magic and wave it lightly, of course, if the match is not enough, I will take it away before you swing it. After all, when people are old, they sometimes look away. Ollivander took out a small box again, willow wood, phoenix feathers, suitable for operating spells, 11 inches, willow wood represents flexibility and wisdom. This time Ollivander did not snatch his wand, but looked at Joshua with encouragement. Well, treat a dead horse as a live horse, doctor. Joshua closed his eyes and waved his wand gently. Yet nothing happened. It seems. It's not. Ollivander let out a charter-like sigh, as if to lament that Joshua was not the only martial arts prodigy. The next time Ollivander took out his wand, Joshua turned out the wand, experimented, failed, took out the wand again, and the cycle gradually drained, and by the time Mr. Arthur found Joshua with a large pile of things, the only bench in the small shop had been filled with wand boxes. This is obviously wrong. System. How come nothing happened? Ollivander shook his head and took his wand away, which made Joshua even more confused. Your little wizard qualification you gave me can't be fake, right? How come I don't feel the magic of what Ollivander said? So, what wand will the protagonist get? Episode 10. Why didn't I feel the magic of what Ollivander said? Isn't there any beginner's tutorial? While Ollivander turned around to look for his wand, Joshua hurriedly asked the system, don't find a wand that suits him and then can't release magic, then what else to play? Peace of mind. Host. Rome is not built in a day, you need to adapt. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel the magic in your body. The system will guide you. Although Joshua thought it was a bit silly, he did it anyway. After closing his eyes, Joshua's eyes were dark. Breathe deeply. Breathe again. According to common sense, except for heartbeat and breathing, the organs in the body are generally not able to feel. But after taking several deep breaths, Joshua did indeed perceive an inexplicable mess in his body, and his brain made up for the structure of the human body, that place. It should be the lower abdomen, so that thing is. Kidney stone? For example, a cold will cause headaches, diarrhea will cause stomach pain, kidney stones will cause small stomach pain. When the body is fine, you see that there are no farts in those places. How can it be kidney stones? Those things are your magic. Stupid. The system is speechless to the host of Joshua. When the old man sends the wand over in a while, you try to imagine using the so-called spiritual power to pour magic into the wand, the more the better. How can you make some movement? The system gave Joshua a note. When people are old, their memories are gone. Mr. Ollivander finally appeared, holding a small box that looked comparable to his age, and it looked antique and had an oriental feel. Mr. Ollivander lowered the box on the counter and pushed it towards Joshua. This wand. It's the work I made when I traveled all over the world, Ollivander's craftsmanship, oriental materials. The combination of the two is this magic wand. Mr. Ollivander suddenly spoke of his past, looking up at the ceiling with his hands behind him, with a grandmaster demeanor. Joshua, on the other hand, has a black line, which is obviously like the cutscene in an RPG game when the protagonist gets a god costume from a supporting character, which is smelly and long and can't be interrupted. You know, each region has its own unique historical trajectory, which is closely related to the local cultural, economic, political, and geographical conditions. In Chinese elegance, De Chinese rigor, French romanticism, this is the spiritual culture given to them by the nation, so the local wand business will be more or less affected by it. So, what does this have to do with me? Joshua scratched his head, indicating that he was just a child who couldn't understand. I mean, you may need a wand for an oriental. Ollivander winked at him, and the old man's smile turned out to be damn sweet. Try it, an old peach tree cut by lightning. The heart nerve of a celestial fireball dragon. 11 inches. Powerful, but difficult to tame. There was a lot of dust on the box, and as soon as he touched the box, Joshua felt that he was stained with dust. He rubbed his hand on his clothes and opened the box. In the small box with a large red velvet bottom lay a wand about 10 inches long, dark brown in body, wide at the tip of the head and tail, and a grip at the end of the wand, allowing the wizard to hold the wand better. There is a thin black line entangled on the wand, and it looks like a small black dragon firmly entangled in the wand, which is strange and beautiful. Gently stroking it with his hand, there was a slight burning sensation on the tips of his fingers. System tip: this wand looks like something given to you by God Master. Don't hurry up and take it yet. It's all related to the distant east, so don't you have to think, this thing must be your own. Hold your wand. Nothing needs to be like. Empty yourself, Mr. Ollivander instructed Joshua as he spoke, imagining himself waving his wand. Come. 1, 2, 3. Joshua waved his wand. Now he finally felt the power that was silent in his body, and the magic power that was originally calm like a basin of coke seemed to be put into a piece of Mentos, bursting out with an amazing power. Now it is about to gush out along its own body. Sheila bang. A silver-white spark erupted from the tip of the wand, enveloping Joshua's arms and arms in it. Crouch. Boy. Are you all right? Ollivander stared out on the side. He had played with his wand for all these years, tried the wand and nothing happened. There was a mess in the store. Something found the right wand the first time, but there are really few people who use the wand to give themselves a plasma hot head. Joshua felt a hot pain on his face, and then looked at his wand-holding arm, and the clothes on it were directly blown into rags, which could have acted as a coal worker in the dark, and the initiator of the accident was still honestly put on Joshua's hand, as if nothing had happened. Department. System. This. Did I count this up? The system's beep came just right. System tip: congratulations to the host for obtaining equipment lightning strike with staff, attributes, thunder, fire, with its own evil spirits attribute, and be eligible to randomly draw a system spell.